Hi, and welcome to this video of Dynamics 365 Talk, where I'll be discussing the 2020 Release Wave 1 features, which came out for preview on February 3rd, 2020. Now, since there's a lot of features, I will be recording additional videos, and in this video, I'll be discussing the new functionality and updated features for Dynamics 365 for customer service. Now, before we get started, my name is Deanne Taylor. You can take a look at my blog at d365goddess.com or follow me on Twitter at d365goddess. And if you want to connect on LinkedIn, feel free to scan that QR code and connect with me. So today we'll be discussing Dynamics 365 for customer service, connected customer service, the knowledge-based search enhancements, the configurable case resolution form, the customer service app for team member license. The customer service hub is now available by default. The case routing rules and SLAs that are now available in the unified interface. The SLA administration, queue enhancements, enhanced email, the new work hour calendar in service scheduling, and of course I'm going to do some demos as well. So connected customer service, IoT has now come to customer service. In this particular release, Microsoft is coming out with connected customer service by fully integrating IoT diagnostics, IoT device updates, and case management. Using connected customer service, users will have the ability to convert IoT alerts to a case record in Dynamics 365 customer service. They can configure commands, and they also have the ability to send the command to the customer's device. And that's what that IoT device command looks like. And then we have knowledge search enhancement. Now, unfortunately, this was not working yet in my instance, so I can't show a demo on this, but I do have some screenshots, as you can see. So if you look on the Microsoft Docs document site, it actually shows that this functionality should be ready for us to test this month, but unfortunately, like I said, it wasn't working in my environment. What this means, though, is that besides improvements to search results and the layout of KB articles on a case record, there is now a separate area where we can search and view knowledge-based articles in the customer service hub. This search page worked for a very short amount of time in my instance, so I was able to take a screenshot before it stopped working. When I actually try to access it, and you can access it by clicking on knowledge search on the sitemap, it was actually pretty fast, so I was impressed with it. And I also liked to be able to view the entire article in full screen. Now, the search page is located in the customer service hub app, obviously, and it's under the service area. So then you'll find the knowledge search navigation under the knowledge section right on the right side. So this is what that looked like. So you can see it's nice to be able to, again, review that information in a page outside of the context of a case record. Now, this is a big one, right? We've been waiting to be able to configure that case resolution form for quite some time. And it was on the roadmap for the previous release, but I guess it was pushed out because it never really happened. So we now have the ability to choose between a couple of case resolution forms. There is a non-customizable dialog box experience, and that's the experience that we're used to, right? So you can leave it as is, or you can use the customizable dialog, or you can use a quick create form. Now, again, this was unfortunately also not working in my instance where I enabled those preview features, but hopefully we're going to be able to test this out pretty soon. Now, this is an interesting one as well. So for team members, people that actually have a team member license, there is now a customer service app for those users. And you gotta kind of understand how this is meant to be used, because this is not for customer service reps that work and resolve cases, right? This is a little bit different. This is for people who use customer service in Dynamics 365 for self-service. What that means is maybe you're using case management to put in tickets, right? Internal tickets. Your employees will go in, create a case, and that's then being handled by your internal team. That's how this customer service app for team members is intended to be used. So I can create cases, I can update cases that I created and read those, and then I can also view knowledge base articles as well. Now, unlike the sales team member app, this app is not installed by default when you're turning on the 2020 release wave 1. But it can be installed from the Dynamics 365 admin center. So if you want that, again, contact your admin and then they can install that, so it's going to be accessible for these users. Previously announced, customers are going to need to migrate to the unified interface by October 1, 2020. Now, the Customer Service Hub solution will then be automatically installed in all of the environments in this release. So existing customers will have access to the Customer Service Hub app, and users with that Customer Service app access security role can then use that app. Now, if you navigate to the Service Management area in the Customer Service Hub, you'll see that routing rules and automatic record creation and update rules are now accessible through the unified interface. So you can find them under the case settings section. SLAs have also been enabled for the unified interface, and they can be found under the service terms section, also obviously in the Customer Service Hub. Keep in mind that if you have any existing SLAs or record creation and update rules that were created in the legacy interface, you won't be able to edit those in a unified interface. However, you can create obviously new rules going forward in that unified interface. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that the site entity is now also available in the unified interface in the Customer Service Hub. And that site entity is used to define customer service location. So this is for scheduling, service scheduling. So while routing rules don't use Power Automate, the configurations of actions for record creation and update rule items does happen in Power Automate. So I'm very stoked about that. The system creates a Power Automate flow based on the action selected in the configuration window. And users then have the ability to add actions or update them in Power Automate. Now, in this release, we have a lot more options when we're configuring SLAs. SLA actions are now powered by Power Automate, giving users a lot more flexibility, right? We all know that there is so much that we can do using Power Automate with all of its 200 plus, I don't even know how many connectors we now have, and this keeps growing obviously as well. Now, keep in mind that you should not edit that predefined flow, and that's where it says do not delete or update, and you'll see that in this screenshot, right? It says do not delete or update, is nearing non-compliance, is succeeded, is non-compliant. So don't touch any of those. You can, however, right, configure what is going to happen when that status equals is nearing non-compliance or is succeeded or is non-compliant. Now, while I was kind of playing around with SLAs, I turned off all of my existing web SLAs, and what I mean by that is the SLAs that I created in the legacy interface, and then I enabled my newly created unified interface SLA, and then I tried to test it on an existing case record. So I actually got an error message that popped up, and it said that you cannot change from a web SLA to a unified interface SLA. Now, the reason why this popped up is because I had my system configured to automatically attach SLAs to newly created cases. And that's something that you can set in system settings. So that's probably something you want to keep in mind, as you're switching over from the web SLAs to the the new unified interface SLAs. There are also some enhancements to queues, but unfortunately this was also not available in the instance that I have enabled for preview, or for early access, I should say. So again, when I went to Microsoft's website, this item does not have that green check mark next to it. And I will pull that up in a second as well. So that means that it's not available yet. But the release date still shows February, so I'm hoping that we're going to be able to see those changes this month and kind of play around with that. So unfortunately, there's not a lot that I can say about this because, I wasn't able to kind of look at it and test it. But the way that I understand it is that it will be easier for users to manage queues, and users will be able to go through a list of queue items without having to leave that queue page. And there will be less clicks when you're working with queues and queue items. So I'm very curious about that one. Now, this functionality, this enhanced email functionality, came to the Sales Hub in the previous release, and I think it's great that it's going to be released for the Customer Service Hub as well. This is a much better experience, obviously, for users when they're trying to compose their emails in Dynamics 365. So the compose window opens in a pop-up that kind of sits on top of the window that people are already working in, right? And then users can navigate to other pages as they're composing the email, and the email just stays there. If I go from a case to a customer record or an account record, right, that email is just going to stay there sitting in that page. So then I can go ahead and copy and paste content in my email. I can also copy and paste formatted contents in that body of that email, and I can make the email full screen obviously as well. So that's a very nice add-on functionality, I believe. And then we have the new work hour calendar in service scheduling. So again, this feature I was not able to, this wasn't enabled in my instance, unfortunately, either, but it's my understanding that the work hour calendar, which is the calendar that is used to update resources calendars, that will be available in a unified interface with this release, which basically means that it's going to be a new experience using a PCF control that administrators will be able to utilize in their design, right? So if they're designing forms and apps, etc., they can now use this new PCF calendar control. So having said all of that, let's now actually take a look at what that actually looks like in Dynamics 365. I'm going to start with that KB search with those enhancements. So unfortunately, if I go to a case, it's not enabled yet on my case form, so I can't show you that, but I can show you here. This is that knowledge search page that is now available, and unfortunately, let me see if it works. It wasn't working for me, unfortunately. It was just thinking and just going around. So again, it's not working still because it was very quick when it was working for that 30 minutes to an hour when it was working, but this is what that looks like. And again, it should pop up pretty quickly, and then you can click on an article and then just see that total page right here on your screen. So unfortunately, that is not working. The configurable case resolution form, let me show you where that is. I'm just going to change my area here to service management, and you can see here it says service configuration settings, and as you can see, here is my resolve case dialog. So these are the options that we have. We have customizable dialog, the standard dialog, that's the one that we were used to, and then we have the quick create dialog. And this is a quick create form that, again, we can, this is what I think it's going to work, how it's going to work. We can kind of edit that quick create form there. But again, this is also unfortunately not working. If I actually put this on my quick create dialog and I save this, and let me go back here to cases, it was just giving me an error when I was trying to close my case. Unfortunately, maybe it is working now. Let's take a look. And resolve case. Let me just hit confirm first and then see. Okay, so it's still not working. It's saying the selected entity is read only for this client, and that is not a setting that we can change. So unfortunately, that is not working yet either. Now let's take a look at that customer service app for team member license. So if you look at your apps, this is where that would actually be visible. But again, that's something that you would need to install obviously before people can use that. And again, keep in mind, right, this is not, people that are going to access this app cannot work on cases, right? Like I said before, so keep that in mind as well. Then let's take a look at the routing rule sets and automatic record creation rules. Again, if I go back here to service management, here are my routing rule sets. So this is for automatic routing. And here is my automatic record creation and update rules. And then if we look under service terms, this is where my SLAs are. Now let's take a look at those routing rule sets. I can go ahead and I can open it up. And here you can see I have a rule item configured already. Not a lot in here, right? The rule criteria, you're actually going to be able to put rows in. So this is basically fields related to a case. I can also group items. So maybe if I have and status equals active or status equals this and, right? So that's the grouping. But I can also add related entities. So maybe I want to say the customer, if that's an account record. I want to say if, again, I want to go ahead and add a related entity for that as well. Oops, let's just get rid of this, delete that. So the related entity, you can see here I have many to one and I have one to many, right? So let's say, for example, I want where the entitlement, as you can see here, entitlement customer, or entitlement account, if it's related to an account. And then I would see that entitlement status equals active. So you can see that this is pretty neat, right? Now we can really go several levels deep looking for data. So this one is saying the case has to be active. The customer that needs to have an entitlement that where the status is active. So you can see this is kind of cool. And then I can route it to a queue or a user. Now let's take a look at SLAs. Let me just go ahead and open up my case defaults. SLA. You can see here I have my SLA items already. Now the thing that is very important is that this primary entity in the legacy SLAs, this was a drop-down field. It is now a lookup. I tried to create a new SLA and the primary entity field was empty because you first need to set up your SLA KPIs. So this is what I did. I set up my SLA KPIs. So you can see here, you need to go ahead and fill this out. Follow up by case is the entity, and then you can pick that when you're creating your SLAs. So let's open that up. Let me open up my first response by. Again, you're applicable when you're going to have the same thing. You see, this is very similar view that we just saw earlier on that routing rule set, right? So you can do here your when is this applicable, What are your success conditions? Well, if my first response equals yes, or if the status of the case equals resolved, and then I can set my warn duration and my failure. Now my actions are going to be configured in Power Automate. If I click on that, you will see that that will now load. Here we go. Power Automate. So I can click on this, I can click on that, and you can see that I already have configured that. So if the status equals is near non-compliant, update a particular record, right? You can, again, you can just use Power Automate now to do update records, send email notifications, post something on a team site, whatever you want to do. We now can use Power Automate for those things, which is great. And I'm going to save and close this as well. Now let's go back to a case record, and I will show you the enhanced email. So I can go ahead and click here on email, and you can see my compose window now opens up. Put my subject in, I can start typing. You can see here we have a bar that we can use for formatting. I can change the fonts, the sizes. I have here, right, all of these different options, different colors, etc. Now if I navigate to other records, you can see that this compose window just stays the same. So I can copy and paste stuff from here into my email, and that's how that works. I can also make that full screen. I can use this again with same functionality, right? Attaching files, inserting templates or signatures, etc. And that was it for my demos. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button and make sure to return again next week for my third and probably last video on the 2020 release wave 1. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.